If you're watching this, there's a good chance you still love your spouse, but you don't feel it the way you used to. You wake up next to them, you eat together, but deep down, something is missing. And the scariest part, you're not sure when it disappeared. You keep waiting for that moment, the moment the feelings will come back, like it did in the beginning. That warm feeling of, this is my person, but it hasn't come back. And now you're starting to wonder, is this just what marriage becomes? Is this normal? Or is something seriously wrong with us? Here's what I need you to hear right now, and I need you to really let this land. The feeling didn't leave because your marriage is over. The feeling left because you stopped doing what created it in the first place. That's it. That's the truth nobody's saying out loud. Feelings in a marriage are not self-sustaining. They are not a pilot light that stays on forever once you say, I do. They are a fire, and fire needs fuel, consistently, intentionally, on purpose. So no, you are not broken. Your spouse is not the wrong person. Your marriage is not a mistake. But waiting is not a strategy. Waiting is how couples wake up 10 years from now and realize they've been living as roommates, sharing a house, sharing bills, sharing a last name, but completely alone on the inside. You don't need more time. You need a different approach. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. So let's talk about what actually happened. Because most couples, when they feel this disconnect, they go straight to blame. They blame their spouse, they blame the stress, they blame the kids, the job, the move, the argument they never fully resolved. And yes, those things are real. Life gets heavy. I'm not dismissing that. But here's what's actually happening beneath all of it. When you first fell in love, you were incredibly intentional and you didn't even realize it. You were curious about this person. You prioritized time with them. You dressed up, you planned, you put your phone down, you paid attention, you were present, fully, completely present. And that presence, that's where the feeling was born. But then life moved in, responsibility stacked up. You got comfortable, and comfort, as beautiful as it sounds, has a shadow side in marriage. Comfort can quietly turn into assumption. The assumption that your spouse knows you love them. The assumption that they're fine. The assumption that the relationship will maintain itself because you've already built it. And slowly, not with a big fight or a defining moment, you stop doing the things that made each other feel chosen. You stopped dating each other. You stopped asking the deep questions. You stopped reaching for each other, physically, emotionally, spiritually. Not because you stopped caring, but because nobody taught you that a marriage requires the same energy in year 10 that it did in year 1. Actually, it requires more. Here's the analogy I want you to sit with. A garden doesn't die all at once. It dies slowly, one miswatering at a time. And one day you walk outside and think, when did everything wilt? But the truth is, it wilted over 100 small moments of neglect. Not malice, not hatred, just neglect. That's what happened to the feeling. It wasn't stolen, it wasn't destroyed. It was slowly, quietly starved. And the moment you understand that, the moment you stop seeing this as a verdict on your marriage and start seeing it as information, everything changes. Because what was starved can be fed again. Now here's where I need to be really honest with you. Because there's a mistake that almost every couple makes at this exact stage, when the feelings have faded, when the distance has set in, when things feel more like routine than romance. And the mistake is this: they wait. They wait for the right moment. They wait until they stop feeling resentful. They wait until their spouse makes the first move. They wait until they feel like trying again. And I understand, I really do. Because when you're emotionally drained, waiting feels like the safe option. It feels patient. It even feels mature, like you're giving the relationship space to breathe. But here is the brutal truth nobody wants to say. Waiting is not patience. In a disconnected marriage, waiting is slow surrender. Every week you wait, the distance gets more familiar. Every month you wait, the silence gets more comfortable. Every year you wait, you both get better at living parallel lives, close enough to feel safe, but far enough to feel completely alone. And then one day, one of you stops waiting, not with anger, not even with a dramatic conversation, just quietly. They stop reaching, they stop hoping. They emotionally check out. And by the time you notice, the gap isn't just wide, it's deep. But here's what makes this mistake even more dangerous. A lot of couples who are waiting, they're not doing nothing. They're having surface conversations. They're being polite. They're keeping the peace. And they mistake peacekeeping for progress. Being civil is not the same as being connected. Coexisting is not the same as choosing each other. A quiet house is not the same as a healthy marriage. You can be conflict-free and completely disconnected at the same time. And that version of marriage, the polite, peaceful, empty version, is one of the loneliest places a person can be. So if you've been waiting for the spark, waiting for your spouse to change, waiting for life to slow down long enough to finally deal with this, I want you to hear me clearly. The waiting has to stop today. Not because your marriage is on the edge, maybe it's not, but because every single day you delay is a day you could have spent rebuilding something extraordinary. Your marriage deserves more than survival. It deserves intention. Alright, this is the part that actually changes things. Not just for how you feel watching this video, but for what happens tonight, tomorrow morning, this weekend, when you walk back into your marriage and decide to do something different. I'm going to give you 5 shifts, not 5 theories, not 5 things to think about, 5 things to do starting now, intentionally. The first shift, choose curiosity over assumption. Most long-term couples stop asking questions. They think they already know everything about their spouse. But people change, desires change, fears change, dreams change. Your spouse today is not the same person you married, and neither are you. So start asking again, not how was your day? Ask something that requires a real answer. What's been weighing on you lately that you haven't told me? Is there something you need from me that you haven't asked for? Curiosity is intimacy in its earliest form. And intimacy is where the feeling lives. The second shift, bring back physical presence intentionally. Not just sex, presence. A hand on the back when you pass each other in the kitchen. Eye contact that lasts longer than a second. Sitting close enough to touch when you watch TV. A hug that isn't rushed. Physical connection sends a signal to the brain and the body that says, you are safe with me. I still choose you. And over time, that signal rebuilds the emotional bridge. Touch is not just physical. Touch is a language. And your marriage may have gone quiet because you stopped speaking it. Don't wait until you feel close to touch each other. Touch each other until you feel close. That's how it works. The third shift, create a ritual that belongs only to the two of you. Not a vacation once a year. Not a date night when the schedule allows. A ritual, something small, consistent, and protected. A breakfast on bed before the rest of the house wakes up every weekend. A 10-minute walk after dinner. A no phones rule after 9 p.m. Something that says, in the middle of everything this life demands, we still show up for each other, every day. Rituals do something powerful in a marriage. They create a thread, a consistent, quiet reminder that you are still wanted, and that thread repeated enough times becomes a rope. The fourth shift, repair what's been left and unresolved. Here's the uncomfortable one. Sometimes the disconnection isn't just drift. Sometimes there's a wound underneath it, an argument that never got a real apology, a season of neglect that was never acknowledged, a hurt that got buried under busyness, because dealing with it felt too hard. And that wound doesn't disappear with time, it just goes underground. And underground wounds silently poison the soil, no matter how many good moments you plant on top of it. So ask yourself honestly, is there something between us that we've never fully addressed? If the answer is yes, that's your starting point. The real conversation, the one you've been avoiding. You cannot build genuine reconnection on top of unresolved pain. The foundation has to be cleared first. This might mean a hard conversation. It might mean a professional counselor. It might mean writing an epistle you've never had the courage to send. Whatever it takes, do it. Because everything else you build on top of unresolved hurt will eventually crack. The fifth shift, decide that your marriage is worth fighting for. This is the most important shift of all. Motivation in marriage cannot always come from feeling. Some mornings you won't feel loving. Some weeks you'll feel more like opponents than partners. Some seasons will test everything you thought you knew about each other. And in those moments, feelings will fail you. What won't fail you is a decision that says, I am not leaving this to chance. I am not waiting for the right mood or the right moment. I am going to show up for this marriage, intentionally, consistently, on purpose, because I made a choice, and that choice still means something to me. The couples who make it, not just survive, but genuinely thrive, are not the ones who always felt in love. They are the ones who kept choosing love when the feeling was nowhere to be found. Feelings follow action, not the other way around. So act first, feel later, trust the process. Let's bring this home. You came to this video maybe because something in your marriage feels different than it used to. The warmth feels distant. The connection feels thin. And if you're being completely honest, you've been quietly scared that what you once had might be gone for good. I want to speak directly to that fear. It's not gone. It is buried. It is tired. It is waiting to be uncovered by two people who are willing to stop drifting and start deciding. But it is not gone. Here's the closing truth I want to leave you with, and I want you to really receive this. The couples who fall back in love are not the lucky ones. They are the intentional ones. They are the ones who stopped romanticizing the early days and started recreating them with more wisdom, more maturity, and more commitment than they had the first time. They are the ones who had the hard conversations, who showed up when it was inconvenient, who chose each other quietly, repeatedly, without an audience, on the days when nobody was watching and nothing felt magical. That kind of love isn't less than what you had in the beginning. It is more, it is deeper. It is the kind of love that actually lasts, and it is available to you right now in the marriage you already have. But it starts with a single step, not a perfect plan. Just one honest move towards your spouse today. Maybe it's a conversation you've been postponing. Maybe it's a touch that says, I still see you. Maybe it's simply looking them in the eye tonight and saying, I don't want us to keep growing apart. I want to find our way back to each other. That's all it takes to open a door that may have been quietly closed for years. Don't let another week pass in silence. Your marriage is not too far gone, but it is asking for your attention right now. If this video speaks to something real in your life, share it. Not just a like, not just a comment. Share it with someone whose marriage could use this today. Because sometimes the most loving thing you can do for another couple is hand them the words they didn't know they needed. And if you want to go deeper, if you want the full roadmap for rebuilding emotional intimacy, reigniting your connection, and creating a marriage that actually feels like a partnership, subscribe and stay close, because that's exactly what we do here. I'll see you in the next one.